Hello everybody, welcome back. So today I'm doing my wrap up for the month of August. And again, I read a lot of books, so I'm going to split this into two. So this will be the first half of the books that I read this month, and then I'll do another video which has the rest of them. So in the month of August, I read 29 books, 10,690 pages total. So I read 9 physical books, 12 ebooks, and 8 audiobooks. Of the ones that I read, 7 were fantasy, 4 of them were nonfiction, 6 of them were science fiction, 2 of them were manga, 2 of them were historical fiction, 2 of them were classics, 2 of them were horrors, 2 were cookbooks, there was 1 spy novel, and there was a mystery thriller. As far as the audience for the books, 19 of them were adult, 4 of them were young adult, and then 6 of them I would just say it's kind of for everybody. They didn't really have set for a specific audience. So we'll start at the bottom. My least favorite book this month, which I gave a 4.5 out of 10 stars, was Quietus by Tristan Palmgren. And this was a science fiction novel about these interdimensional travelers who are studying our world in the time of the Black Plague in order to understand the plague so that they can possibly help a plague that is going on in their time and their dimension. There appear to be some similarities between the Black Plague and their plague. And it was just okay. It wasn't like anything. I just don't feel like it was executed well. The next book that I read that was on the bottom was The Bourne Identity by Robert Ludlum. And for a spy novel, I actually liked this pretty good. I gave it, but I thought that the characters, and especially like the female character, and kind of the overall love story and everything was kind of creepy. So I gave this one a 4.5 out of 10 stars. If it had just been the spy part, I probably would have been fine with it. The next one, again, this one was another like 4.5, nothing really great to say about it, was called Ahren, the 13th Paladin by Torsten Weitze. And my biggest problem with this was that kind of the way it was written wasn't very well written. There was a lot of misspellings, a lot of grammatical stuff, and I do realize that it was a translated novel, but also there were things that just didn't, dialogue and different things that just felt a little forced. And it could be that the way it was written, or it could have been the way it was translated. But there were just a lot of problems with it, and it was really kind of flat. It was more, so it has like kind of the farm boy trope that's common in fantasy, but this was all about him kind of on the farm, just learning about who he is and what he can do, but I just didn't find it very interesting. The next one that I gave a 5 out of 10 was Jaws by Peter Benchley. And this is kind of a classic horror. And this one I just kind of found that it hadn't aged well. There were some kind of racist things and a lot of sexist things in there that I didn't really like that much. That kind of brought my rating down for it. As far as like story on the water of a shark eating people was fine. Although I kept looking for things that I knew happened in the movie that didn't happen in the book. And I don't know if I was disappointed or what, because it's hard to say when you compare a book and a movie. The next one on the list is Jude the Obscure, and I gave this one 5 out of 10 stars because overwhelmingly it was a lot of people just pining over each other and wanting to be with people and not being able to be with them. So it had a lot of these kind of romance themes that I don't like normally in books. Now the end kind of did redeem itself, and I enjoyed the end, as in like this is kind of what happens and this is the result of, adults don't take care of their problems and how it affects everyone around them. The next one, and this one is also a 5 out of 10, was The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders. This was a young adult science fiction, takes place on another world. I guess like the atmosphere of this world is kind of different and based on how things are arranged. It sounds like it's kind of like the planet is tidally locked with its star, So there's kind of extremes in temperature and extremes in weather, that you live in these cities and you have to follow certain protocols in order to survive. It's about these group of people that leave the city to go find kind of the native aliens of the planet. I mean, overall it was just okay. I have nothing good or bad to say about it. It was fine. It just wasn't like amazing. The next one that I listened to was U-Turn by Ashley Stahl, and this was about how to make more money at your job and things like that. And some of the information was pretty good. However, I don't know that it applies in every situation. I don't think it certainly applies at my job. And I gave that one a 5 out of 10 stars. The next one was kind of a classic book about psychotherapy. It was called Counseling and Psychotherapy by Carl Rogers, who is kind of one of the founders of psychology, or founders of the way that we do treatment and how we build rapport and relationships with people. And unfortunately, it didn't age well. And I gave it 7 out of 10 stars because I think that it certainly deserves the recognition. Like, he was one of the first people to look at doing therapy a certain way, and the field of therapy increased because of his contribution. I certainly agree with the parts about unconditional positive regard and listening to your clients and about what they want for their lives. However, again, there was some sexist things in there, and it seemed applicable mostly to middle-class white males, which would have been common for the time. But a lot of times with his female clients, he seemed to be successful when they decided that a traditional female role was better for them. So, like I said, I gave it 7 out of 10 because I felt like as a classic in the field of psychotherapy, it was fine. The next one that I want to talk about was called A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin. And I gave this one 7.5 out of 10. This was a science fiction kind of space opera about a girl who goes kind of to this, I guess it was a city in this empire on another planet. And her predecessor has been murdered, and her station, or wherever it is that she is, the people that comes from, the technology to save someone's memories and implant them in someone else. So she has the memories of this person who died and her memories as well, and she's kind of coming to terms with now being two people. However, the technology is not working right, and she's trying to solve his death and see whether or not she believes that he's been murdered. She just doesn't know how or who. The next one, I also Mind of My Mind by Octavia Butler. I gave 7.5 out of 10 stars. And this was the second book in the Pattern Master series. It's about a couple of immortals who have done this 4,000-year breeding program, trying to create people with special abilities, telepathy being the most common. I have to say, this one's hard to rate. It's more that I'm just intrigued and I want to know what happens and how it all plays out. But overall, it was pretty good. The next book on my list is Perfume by Patrick Suskind. And this is a story about a serial killer. He is trying to find the most exotic smells and find a way to capture them and preserve them, and ends up killing people to get those. So it was interesting. I gave it 7.5 out of 10 stars. And the last two that I'm going to mention for this video are One Punch Man, 14 and 15. This is a manga series about a hero league and a monster league, and monsters are taking over and the heroes are trying to stop them. And the most powerful hero is Saitama, and he can kill anything with one punch. And he had to make some sacrifices in order to be the strongest superhero, as in he now has no personality, no feelings, and no hair. I honestly can't say why I like these, but I think that they're a lot of fun to read. So there is the first half of my August wrap-up. I'm going to end it there, and I will post another video with the other books that I read this month. So thanks everyone for watching. If you liked the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe.